Tonight, we actually have two meetings. We have one quick meeting that's an organizational meeting, and then we'll adjourn that meeting and we'll restart in our public actual council session. So those of you that have signed up or wanted to speak tonight for your 3 minutes, that'll be in the next meeting, the actual council meeting. So I'd like to start by saying this meeting takes place in the traditional and ancestral territory of the Mi'kmaq people. We are all treaty people. So I need approval of the agenda for this meeting. Recommend the council approve the agenda for the 2025 council organizational meeting as presented. Is there a mover? Moved by Councillor Strong, seconded by Councillor Fullerton. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, motion carried. So under new business, the first item is regular council meeting schedule. So the recommendation that council approve the dates and times for town council regular council and committee of the whole meetings for 25, 26 is presented in attachment A. So we can flip to attachment A. So does anyone have any thing they'd like to bring up?
Are we, you're supposed to ask questions? I'd like to talk about the summer. But yeah, on Tuesday, the 23rd, I don't think we should be holding a meeting on that date.
So there's a couple of recommendations that are yellow that we'll do committee of the whole, I guess. Well, there's a Tuesday the 23rd and there's Tuesday, January 6th that are recommendations to basically cancel both those meetings because staff, well, for a number of reasons. One, it's holidays, but two, a lot of staff will be off between Christmas and New Year, and their first day back will probably be that Monday, in all honesty. So there's a recommendation in those two highlighted. And if you look at the summer schedule, that's just been traditionally what we've done for forever. We've usually tried to meet once during the summer or once a month. It's really up to ourselves. So what's everybody's preference? I mean, I'm certainly okay with the recommendations in December, January. That's pretty straightforward as far as I'm concerned. And then in the summer months, would you like to meet in July or August or break it up? Deputy Mayor.
I've found that it's hard to hold it to just one meeting for the summer. Just really, there's lots going on still. So I know that there were times when we tried to do that and we ended up adding a meeting anyway. So it would be my suggestion that council meet on the traditional, the second Tuesday or the first regularly scheduled meeting for each month. So like July 7th, it would be in August. What was that? August? Pardon me, the 11th, right? As the regular meetings for the summer, and then the second meetings of those months be canceled. And then I'm open for discussion as to whether or not it would be necessary to hold committee of the whole meetings.
Yep. Anybody else? Everybody go. I mean, I tend to agree if we'd have one council meeting in July, one council meeting in August, and leave the committee of the whole open unless there's something urgent that we need to meet in committee of the whole for leading up to one of those meetings. We could do it that way if you want. And as long as we let the public know in plenty of time and update our schedule online, everything, it should be okay if we have to call a committee of the whole meeting in August. So is everyone okay with those changes? Okay, so we don't need a motion. We can just friendly amendment, or do you want a motion?
Yeah, we can just say as discussed.
Okay, does someone want to make a motion then as discussed? Moved by Councillor Fullerton. Is there a seconder? Councillor Babineau. Any other questions or comments on that? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, motion carried. Thank you very much. 4.2, recommendation that council appoint as deputy mayor until council's next organizational meeting in 2026. So basically, is someone prepared to move someone for deputy mayor? Councillor Strong?
Do I have to give reasons? I think that because everyone sitting around the table is so new, I would like to recommend that we continue the term of office of the current deputy mayor for one more year and then consider alternatives.
Moves or seconder for that? Seconded by Councillor Daphne. Is there any other nominations? Any other interest? Okay, all those in favor? Well, we don't have to vote. There's no one else. So congratulations, Deputy Mayor Bailey. It's great to have you as Deputy Mayor again, right? So this is going to be a real quick meeting. Next is appointment to committees. So the council approved its 25, 26 committee appointments as presented. So they're in here in your package. So this was after we discussed and back and forth where we sort of wanted to stay or move because of our schedules or because of conflicts. And there are one committee for sure is wrapping up. So has everyone had a chance to review the committee appointments? Everybody okay with the committee appointments? Deputy Mayor?
Should I move that the committee appointments be continue as presented in the council appointments to committees and organizations report for 25-26?
So moves or seconder? Seconded by Councillor Fullerton. I'd just like to add quickly, everybody always likes to be on social media saying things about conflict and this and that. One of our councillors did remove themselves from one of our committees because they felt because of the profession, they might have a conflict down the road. So again, thank you very much to that councillor. So again, all those in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed? Thank you very much. And motion for adjournment. So moved. Meeting adjourned. So you guys can all go home now and get ready for the Blue Jays. So let me go back. Okay, so we'll call the regular public council meeting to order. We'll acknowledge this meeting takes place in the traditional and ancestral territory of the Mi'kmaq people. We are all treaty people. Additions, deletions to the agenda. There is one addition under correspondence. It's something Paul is going to bring up under correspondence. So is everybody okay with that addition? Okay, so with that addition, can we have a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor Strong, seconded by Councillor Babineau. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, motion carried. Approval of the minutes. Recommendation that council approve the October 14th, 2025 meeting minutes as presented. Is there a mover? Moved by Deputy Mayor, seconder. Councillor Greek. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carried. There are no presentations tonight. And now we're ready for public input. And we have two people signed up. The first person is Stephen Finley, our town crier.
How you doing? Good, good. I'm not going to take up a lot of your time. I just wanted to touch base a little bit about the last Town Crier event that I just participated in about a month ago, because my interest in these events was, yes, about competing and yes, about representing the town, but perhaps about the possibility of maybe holding an event here one day down the line. Now, I think, you know, considering this last event was just in New Glasgow, to have it back to back 2 years, I don't think would work. I think there should be a couple years in between. What was most interesting about this event, as opposed to Provincetown, and Provincetown was great. I had an awesome time there. It was much bigger. There was 15 criers there this time, represented all the way from the UK. And then we had a lot of American criers that I actually met while I was in Provincetown who also came to participate, and a lot more from Canada this time. And, you know, a lot of them have been very heavy hitters. There's criers there who've been doing it 30 years. There's one guy who is in his 40th year, mid 30 years. So, you know, a lot of them have a lot of experience. You know, what was most interesting in this one was that there's 3 categories where you could place first, second, and third. In Provincetown, it was just like we had 2 town cries. They amalgamated our scores and we placed. according to that, in which I got second. In this one, I did not place in the first two categories, but I just placed second in the last category. And in fact, I had tied for first. What I didn't know is that when you do tie, they have something what's called a cry off, and you could either do the town cry that you just did, or you could bring out a whole new one. Now, I didn't know this was even a thing, so I didn't have anything prepared. So I just did the one, I repeated the one I just did, which I guess is what most people do. The guy that I tied with, he actually had a town cry prepared and memorized that he's probably been doing for 10 years. And, you know, I'm in good company. The guy that I tied with has won 4 international championships. And I was told he also placed 9th in the world. So, you know, you're in good company there. But, you know, if the Board of Trade in the town ever decided that they wanted to go ahead with an event like this, there does need to be involvement from local vendors. You know, we're treated quite well in the sense that they make sure that, you know, we're coming from a distance to represent our local communities. So they make sure that, you know, we probably get like 50% off our lodgings. You know, they'll have a kind of on the meet and greet. The very first night, they will provide some kind of dinner for us as we meet the mayor. And there's a whole ceremony about giving a gift to the mayor. You know, they did have a wind-up dinner for us. Just a few things like that. They weren't responsible for all our food, but I'm going to say they're responsible for a good 50% of it, which makes a big difference if you're coming from like the UK or Provincetown or New Jersey or even Ontario, right? But it's also an opportunity for the local vendors too, because the criers would visit all these local vendors and have, you know, photo ops and, you know, video opportunities for them to post on their social media. So the whole town does kind of get involved in a way. And what was very interesting about this event and Provincetown is that there's a documentary being filmed about us, okay, by this documentarian. So we had a documentary crew follow us around in Provincetown, but also in New Glasgow. I think it's about a team of 9. And, you know, they got a lot of footage of all of us, and they did private interviews with all of us as well. So I was speaking to the documentarian about the documentary film fest here. And I said, you know, once you get this edited and you're pitching it, I said, if you pitch it here and you get it accepted and, you know, make sure you tell them that there's a local crier involved. I told him, I said, if your film gets in, I will do a town cry for the opening of your film. And I'll see if I could get the other Nova Scotia criers to come to Lunenburg too. So I think there's a lot of opportunity to maybe have an event down the road, which I think that would be very interesting in the shoulder seasons, especially like October-ish when, you know, the tourists start to die off a little bit. I think it would bring new energy and excitement. I already thought, you know, too, when we did the event in New Glasgow, they had us do one cry at their gazebo in their park. And then they had us march down, like parade down to the farmer's market, and we did one there, and then we were back at the park. You know, there's ample opportunity here to have one in the beautifully restored gazebo once it's done, to march down to where the Blue Nose is and use that stage down there. You know, this is kind of the perfect place for it, and it is a UNESCO site as well. I'm kind of surprised. I don't think has anybody ever brought this to you before? No, I mean, I certainly couldn't do it on my own. I certainly would be a facilitator, and I could find out how to do it if there's any interest. But I think it's something that the Board of Trade has to be involved in actively. You know what I mean? With all the vendors and all the shops and everything else. But that's it. I'm very proud to go and you know, represent my community. I'm very happy that I got another trophy. I've only done 2 competitions. However, I always like to stress that it's actually not about winning, you know, and I like to win. Don't get me wrong. I do. I like to win. I like to be recognized. I work hard. I write the cries myself. But the camaraderie of all the criers is really quite wonderful. They're really quite wonderful people. And, you know, the criers are actually not just male, they're also female. very interesting people from all walks of life. And, we could all kind of learn from each other, which I think is really great. And that's all I have to say. Thanks so much for listening to me. Okay.
Well, Stephen, I'd just like to take this opportunity to congratulate you on your 2 crier events, and to tell you how proud we are as a community to have you as a town crier. The only thing that I, despise is when you open before me, because you're a real hard act to follow, right? I mean, like, I'd rather the crier like in the event, right? It'd be much better for me, but no, I find it hard to believe that you finished second, because I figured you'd, wipe them all away the way because you are, the way you do the cry and you perform when you do it. I've seen a lot of criers over the years, and you're top notch. And again, we're very fortunate to have you as the town crier for our town. And I'm sure that now that you've brought it up, I'm sure that the Board of Trade and the town can probably, down the road work at putting something together. And since you've mentioned it, I'm sure you'll be asked to help out. That's how
Awesome.
it goes.
Well, if you have one of these, it does require a host crier.
Yes.
That's kind of part of it. And the host crier can't compete, but he hosts and he does town cries through the event. He's just not a competitor.
Good. Again, congratulations. And I'm very happy that you brought this forward approximately a year ago when you wanted to go to Provincetown, and that the town supported you, because I think it is a great event, and it's great to send somebody. So thank you very much, Stephen.
Thank you. And thanks for sending me. Cheers.
Next, we have Duncan Kroll.
Now I get to follow the town crier. Duncan Kroll, 45 McDonald Street. I'd like to speak to agenda item 11.1, the Lunenburg electric utility. And first, I'd like to thank council and staff for bringing this item forward. And I urge council to approve the staff recommendation to retain ownership of the LEU. For me, the CAO captured the essence of this issue in his comments in the document before you tonight. He said, and I quote, "By selling the utility, the town would not retain any control measures as it relates to upgrades or even the electrical rates for the users of the system." The operative words here are "would not retain any control measures." As we know now, we are all at the mercy of Nova Scotia Power, a private monopoly. Until a provincial government of any political stripe moves forward to expropriate Nova Scotia Power, we will continue to be under their thumb. The privatization of Nova Scotia Power some years ago is a good example of the folly of giving up control of a valuable asset for one-time short-term financial gain. I believe now is not the time to give up any more control, particularly of a local strategic infrastructure like the Lunenburg electric utility. As someone more famous than me in a different context once said, "If you don't own it, you don't control it." So please, let's move forward with the electric utility in our own hands. I do have one question though, and perhaps the CEO will be able to answer it when we get to the item. In terms of the Nova Scotia Power Service Agreement, I would like to know if staff or council have had any discussions and or done any analysis of the feasibility of terminating this agreement and having our own town crew provide maintenance and servicing. I believe some members of the Maritime Municipal Electric Utility Alliance, which we have just joined, have their own crews. And so there may be some opportunities to share provision of those services with other Alliance members. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Does anybody else want to speak? Came in late. We took the list down before the first meeting. So everybody, if you do, you just go to the podium and introduce yourself. And
Hi, my name's Alex Moriarty, and I came because I saw the agenda item about the Harbour sewage situation. I wanted to know more about the town's capacity for sewage treatment in the Lunenburg, specifically Back Harbour. I didn't test Front Harbour, but I did do a sewage test of Back Harbour because I have young kids. I live in Lunenburg, we're renting in Lunenburg, and we like to swim there. Now there's sewage in Back Harbour. I think everyone knows that. The Nova Scotia, I talked to Nova Scotia, I talked to Modal, and I also wrote a letter and dropped it off here at Town Hall. Nova Scotia said, no, we can't do anything because first you have to file a complaint with town. So I did that. Modal says, oh no, it's not us, it's town. So, you know, it's a lot of passing the buck. Province of Nova Scotia said, no, you tested for E. coli, not enterococcally. Enterococcally is what you use for saltwater tests because enterococcally doesn't get killed by salt water. If you have E. coli in salt water, that shows that you have more than normal levels of sewage in the salt water. Normally, E. coli would die off pretty quickly, and that's not a good indicator for saltwater tests because you could have sewage in the saltwater and it wouldn't show up on an E. coli test because it dies off. If you're showing up above the limits that they test for in Nova Scotia, so I submitted the test to the Department of Health and they came back above 200, we stopped counting, basically. They stopped counting because that should die off in salt water. So my questions are, what does the town have capacity for? Because this arises during summer tourism season when town is full. I took the test when the folk festival was on and there was visible sewage in the Back Harbour. So that's why I attended. I'm hoping to learn more, but I haven't heard from this report. I submitted questions and didn't hear anything, so yeah.
Thank you. Tyson, did you, or it's in your report later on the agenda, right? Yeah, we're giving a report on 11.2, so, okay. Anybody else? Okay, so we'll move on to number 8 under correspondence. Paul?
Thank you, Chair. So this came up most recently, and I want to put this to council so that you're aware. Government Frameworks has it's an organization that's both Canadian and international, representing different structures, softwares, processes that can be for municipal governments and systems. We actually had a demo this past week about it, looking at how we can innovate our systems and our processes here. Unbeknownst to me, so when I attended the AMNS conference, I met with one of the vendors, had a long discussion about innovation and moving us forward within our structures. Last week, I received a email of time sensitivity that basically stipulated Government Frameworks has a scholarship opportunity. The scholarship opportunity is to attend the I3 conference, which is Innovation, Ignite, and Impact 2025. So the conference is a professional development and knowledge sharing event designed for local governments and public sector leaders. Its agenda focuses on innovation, transformation, and impact, providing practical insight that can be directly applied to strengthening governance, compliance, and operational performance. Key themes include advancing governance and compliance maturely across municipalities and councils, leveraging automation and digital tools to improve efficiencies and service delivery, building reliance and accountability through modern reporting and leadership practices, and showcasing case studies and provide strategies that deliver measurable improvements for councils. So direct benefits to the municipality, we learn from global best practices on governance, risk, and compliance, explore innovative approaches to automation reporting and strategic planning, networking with peers from municipalities and councils on subject matters, forming valuable professional connections, accessing resources, templates, and frameworks that can be implemented to improve performance compliance, bring back practical tools and insights to support continuous improvement and learning, and amplify municipal visibility and demonstrate its ongoing commitment to innovation collaboration within the international local government community. So this is time sensitive because it is going to occur December 1st through 3rd, 2025. Within this, the full scholarship includes flight, travel, accommodations, meals, everything for everything is covered, 100%. I would have to go out of country for this. I will have to go to Fiji for this. Yeah, it was the dropper. So I did get clarification. This is officially real. This is the scholarship they are offering, and that I would be looking at taking a little bit of time off from town here to go to do it, representing the town, as well as probably taking a little extended leave. We're trying to arrange a little bit of vacation time within this, but I would be representing Lunenburg on a world-class conference that would represent other municipalities and sharing best practices. So I wanted to bring that forward. I brought it forward to the mayor and deputy this afternoon, but to inform you that that was a request that I'm coming forward with to council.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions of Paul or just like to, yeah, I just like to
For 25 hours.
congratulate you on, receiving this scholarship. Obviously, when you're at the conference and talking to the people, you impress them. And again, I always like when we send people for anything educational, it always benefits all of us. It benefits our citizens, benefits the community, and especially if something of this magnitude. I mean, this is something that normally the town of Lunenburg obviously wouldn't be able to afford to send somebody to. So again, congratulations, and I hope you enjoy Fiji.
Thank you.
Thank you. There's no public hearings. There's no business arising or unfinished business, so we'll move right into 11.1, the electric utility presentation.
Council, if you're good, I'm going to take the presentation from the chair here, and my presentation will be up on the screen for you to watch. Whenever you're ready, Jamie. Yeah. So thank you. Tonight, council, we are going to talk the Lunenburg electrical utility and the presentation report that we have here that's included in your report. It's also co-authored by Lisa Dagley, Director of Finance. We can go to the next slide, please. So in historical context, what we're looking at here, realistically, we've had a service contract with Nova Scotia Power since 2018. It's been extended 3 times over the last several years with an unknown direction of where we're going with the electrical utility. Back in 2022, the electrical utility had a review done, and SEMA provided a presentation within that as to what the direction and what options council had. Currently, council, we're at a fork in the road. Realistically, we're at the end of the service agreement. NSPI would like us to decide, are we continuing on, going to negotiate, or what is the future of this within our organization? And realistically, what is the direction council wants to go as it relates to sale or keeping the utility? Next slide, please. Most recently, you joined the MMEUA. Everybody, it's been better to call it the alliance within this. So this is 9 municipalities across the Atlantic Canada that run their own electrical utilities with the design for collaborating, sharing of innovation, expertise, reliable, strengthening our grids, really knowledge sharing and potentially group sharing of opportunities. If you can flip to the next slide. Within this, the alliance benefits, promotes clean energy, modernization of grids, participating in other funding projects that we can co-op, whether it's smart meters to replacement of lines or even innovating our systems entirely. When we're looking at strategic decision-making, it's working with them provides us a balance and offshoots within that. It's selling and terminating our option, there are no penalties. We joined it. There's no cost to, unless we want to pay to play. Otherwise, it's great knowledge sharing. And if you decide to sell, we can step away from it. Importance in partnerships is strategic partnerships aligning in sustainability, best deliveries, and emphasizing municipal ownership as a key value versus stakeholder ownership. Next one. So really, council, I'm providing you 2 options. Option number 1, you sell the utility. So right now we're in a situation where our electrical grid needs a complete overhaul. We're talking everything from your substations to transformers to every line within the community. Right now, we've done an evaluation on the facility, and if you actually look in your budgets, the net book value is about $4.7 million. Would we get that in a sale? Probably not. Would we get anything in a sale? probably very limited. You're almost better to hand the keys over in those situations because the whole grid needs a modernization and a revamp. Not to say that it can't, and I'm going to emphasize this, it can continue as is, but if you expect to expand, grow housing, allow for business development and expansion that way, the grid will need to be worked on. If you decide to sell, you lose all control. Basically, you will, but let's take this another light. You won't have to worry about doing any bills. We don't have to worry about capital investments. We don't have to worry about all of those key things that staff are dealing with at this point in time. Critical thing is you lose control of rates and you lose control of how the system works and how you're going to actually see development grow. So loss of municipal control will have several impacts across the municipality on several levels for customers. Everything from more than likely, who's going to be the likely buyer to what are they going to control to you have no control over rates. And realistically, if you go down this route, we only have one option available. It's work with legal to come up with an idea of how to sell and where to sell to. Next slide, please. Your opportunity stands at your option 2. Retain the utility. So what is presented to you in the report is basically a wholesale, complete modernization, not just looking at from a standpoint of where we need to be now, but where we're going and where the community needs to go. What we're looking at is an optimization of the utility that would allow us to double our capacity, if not more, depending on what we've put in place and how we go. What we need within this, and we're going to emphasize this, is we would further do preventative maintenance, make sure our trees are cleared, make sure we have good plans, not to say we don't now, but this is all part of the modernization of it. Grid resiliency, so looking at how we can improve against climate change and adaptation, improve reliability, and align with our climate change adaptation goals. The long-term benefit is, let's talk short-term. Short-term, we're probably going to be, this is going to be a struggle. This is going to be difficult as we go as a short-term, but in the long-term, when we look at it, I think our goals are always, how do we keep the rates best for our public that are paying into this? But how do we continue to modernize and retain and save for when we need to replace? That is where your control comes into play. That is where you will have the best opportunities for your ratepayers if you wish to protect them in that. What we've presented to you tonight is a 5-year, and this was actually presented in your last budget, but a 5-year capital plan. We're talking probably 5 to 7 years within this, and we'll talk a little bit deeper into this, but that's the difference between what you would have to what you don't is control and how you can work it out based on the developments that you see in your community. Next slide, please. Your council priorities and municipal strategy. So when I looked at the CCP, I looked at the MPS, everything started to emphasize renewable energies. You're looking at balancing costs. You're looking at how do you have EV charger stations in your community. You have more people coming in that are going to want these. Let's even talk EV bikes, EV scooters, whatever active modes of transportation you want to look at. But effectively, how can we ensure that both our residents and our visitors have a great experience and not have a concern for power? Within your infrastructure in the municipal plan, it's emphasizing maintaining and optimizing your infrastructure, as well as balancing the cost benefits. No different than your roads work, no different than your water, no different than your sewer. This is where this comes into play. I will go back to council's top 5 priorities that were listed to me when I first started. Electrical utility, MPS, LUB, heritage bylaw, CCP, HR processes and procedures, building community trust, and internal and external communications. 3 of these, actually 4 of these, are reflective within this discussion tonight and where you want to go within this. Well, you could even say 5. Next slide, please. Financial costs and forecasting. So realistically, we were projected to have $133,500 deficit this year in 2025, 2026, and another $282,000 in 2026, 2027 due to high power costs and financial obligations here. Did you know that 80% of all of our costs are associated with buying power? It's pretty crazy that, 20% we're putting into administration and renewals of our system. But with the new GRA that has come into place, so I will reassure that we will not be in a deficit. We are balancing that within that system. When we look at this and you're looking at it, in order for us to succeed within this balance of moving this forward, grants and creating a better low cost service contracts and reviewing our allocations and how we are controlling our system effectively is going to be the major steps that we need to do in this to ensure the best rates possible. In the long term, again, focusing on sustainability, cost effectiveness, and the biggest thing I'd say is being proactive. This is being proactive and planning for your future, but we need to continue doing that if you wish to keep a utility forward. No different than you're doing right now with the wastewater treatment plant and the $13 million in upgrades that are going on there. To give you an idea of what's already happened. So the wheelhouse and HVH expansion, that's already happening now. Without that, the new wheelhouse housing developments for medical professionals wouldn't be powered. That's the investment you're making into this, is improving housing, improving capacity, improving that. When you look across the board here, looking at Green Street, substation prep, new substations, feeder upgrades, and smart meters. That we are looking at, even in a costing, is approximately about 15 million. Even with our estimates going forward, you're probably looking at 18 to $20 million of an actual capital upgrade here. So within this, our debt ratio, and this is something we'll touch on in the next slide here, and I'll just actually jump to it. Your debt ratio, if this is all done through debt, we can do it. We can borrow. Your debt ratio by 2030 for the utility will be 11.7%. General thresholds, we try to keep under 15 as much as possible, but you're pushing that limit, which is why it's extremely important, if you do approve this, that it is a function of the town to go and pursue grants, loans, at better loans and better funding opportunities that we can, and from all levels of government. So right now, the recommendation we're putting forward is that council retain the utility. And this will ensure operational oversight, that we can control the destiny of the utility and where it goes. Within that, council, we're also recommending an approval of the 5-year capital plan. In order for us, and this is becoming a more and bigger theme that I am seeing in discussions with other CAOs and other levels of government, we can't go with them piecemeal anymore. $1 million here, $1 million there, that's not what they want. They're looking for the big wins. If we can present them with a $20 million project over a 5-year span, it's going to have a bigger sell point, both to the province and the federal government under the new build housing program. And at this point, Premier Houston is now the head of energy. So we have to look at that as a standpoint of how do we proceed as a public utility and how do we get funds. Within that strategic framework, just to note, that's talking capital. There's still an investment in administrative and operational that we'll have to look at as well. That can be everything from like our smart meters going into new software so that we can read those smart meters instead of having somebody go out and actually read the meters individually. The biggest thing I can say here is by going forward, your recommended will be proactive and align with your CCP, your MPS, but also align with your community's goals of sustainability and enhancing our infrastructure for the future if you go with that round. Next slide. Your alternatives, sell it. We can go through that process, but again, you won't have to worry about infrastructure. You won't have to worry about operations, but you lose complete control. You won't have a say anymore. You can table the decision tonight, but I urge you, we need to talk to Nova Scotia Power in November to let them know what we're doing with the service agreement and where do we want to go with it. And back to the question that came forward tonight, have we done an analysis about, the ownership and our service agreements? We have. We are still doing them, but we need time. That's the bigger thing right now, is we've only scratched the surface of what are our options and what are we looking at. One of the critical things we need to look at and speak with Nova Scotia about is how do we work with this within timeframes? What is viable? And what are our other options? But we need to put this on the table for us to say, we still need a direction forward at this point. Overall, the implications, there's financial outcomes, community welfare, long-term utility, governance. And this requires a really good decision and a careful consideration. So I warn you, council, when this is not taken lightly. This has been a lot of analysis by staff, a lot of review, and the concern is, and we're at that fork in the road. We need to decide where you want to go. So basically, we need a decision by November of 2025. Are we in or are we out? If we're in, we need to start negotiations and service agreement renewals and reviews. If we sell, we can start that process. But I just note that everything that was in your municipal plans and guidelines and strategy says, keep it, align with it, build it, and grow it. So I come back to council tonight seeking your direction on which way you want to go. Back to you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Does anyone have any questions or comments for Paul? Councillor Strong.
First of all, I want to thank staff for bringing this forward. The number one thing that I heard going door to door a year ago was that we have to do something with our electrical utility, and I'm really happy to see that we've got something concrete in our hands to look at, and I have been looking at it in the last year. So I'm ready to make a decision, but I guess I have to leave it with everybody else. I would recommend that council approve the confirmation of the continued ownership, management, and investment in Lunenburg Electrical Utility.
It's been moved. Is there a seconder? Seconded by the deputy mayor. Any further question or discussion? I'd just like to add, if I could, quickly, that when we did meet in February as our top 5 priorities, the electric utility was by far our top priority. Paul was nowhere around at that time. When Paul got hired, we made it very clear that was our top priority. And I want to thank Paul and the rest of the staff that really dug into this. Basically, you're talking mid-August or early August when this started. So within a little over 2.5 months, we are hopefully in a position to make a decision on something that has been hanging over our heads for a number of years now. And at least at this point, if we make the decision that I hope we make, we know how we have to move forward, and we know the direction we're taking. And then we have to basically, get to work. And that's the next process. But again, Paul's 100% correct. Everything I've heard at any conference I've been to is both the province and the feds don't want to be announcing little projects anymore. It's the big wow factor. So if it's a $15 to $20 million project that is really needed for, number one, housing or growth primarily, and number two, to modernize our system, I would hope there's levels of government out there that we can access, but until we actually take this step, we can't go any further. So again, I'd just like to thank staff for everything they've done in a very short time. And does anyone else have any comments? Deputy Mayor?
Well, I just wouldn't want to leave the impression by a quick motion that this is being taken lightly. We have been studying this as a council group and asking questions of staff for many months now, and it is very refreshing and reassuring to get the information and the recommendation that we have before us now from staff. Giving us the details that we need to understand what is needed to get our utility to a more viable and sustainable place as a valuable service for our citizens and our clients beyond the town of Lunenburg as well. It's critical, and I think we've had the path laid out for us now. And to the comments that were made earlier, I think we can be in a very good position to do right by those we serve by maintaining control of this valuable asset.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Councillor Babineau.
Yeah, I just wanted to, I guess, just chime in and say, like, I think probably all of the rest of us around the table, the electrical utility was top of mind for everyone campaigning. And if I'm being very honest, as I've gone through this past year on council, and I've learned more and more about the electrical utility, as we've sort of dived into the options in front of us, as I've learned more about how it works and why we need so much work done, I've come to feel very, very differently about it than I did when I was first elected. Just going to come right out and say that. I do also lean heavily towards retaining the utility. In particular, it points out in the report that it's not to say that in the future we can't change our minds. If we come to a point, another fork in the road where we're like, this is too burdensome. I'm hoping that we won't, but it's always a possibility. And I think if we were to sell now, then we wouldn't have any future possibilities. And I just really don't like that idea. So.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Councillor Fullerton.
Just to add to what everybody else has said, I think that it's been a huge education for all of us to learn all the different pieces that that we need to understand and how they work together to make this system work. And I think that also with the addition of our new membership in the MMEUA, this also will open other doors and more information for us as we go along to help us with some of the next sets of decisions we have.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Chair, just
Oh,
no,
good.
so council be aware, just because you're making this decision tonight, looking at it from a capital aspect, it's still going to come back to your table. Like everything, when it comes to tenders, RFPs, grants, all of these things will still come back to the table. So you're not being left out of the loop. And to your point, Councillor Babineau, you will still have an option if you wish to divest of the asset in the future. But that is up to you at that point in time, and that would be whatever is recommended, we would bring forward to you. But you still have control. You will still be a part of this in every step of the way. This is the start, and we need direction with this level to be able to move forward.
Thank you. Anybody else? There is a motion made and seconded. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, motion carried unanimous. Now, is someone prepared to move the second recommendation along with this report? Councillor Strong?
Yeah, I move that council approve the 5-year capital plan for the Lunenburg electrical utility as included in the 25-26 capital budget.
Moves there a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Fullerton. Any discussion on this? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, motion carried unanimous. Again, that's a great step I think we've taken tonight. So thank you very much to everybody around the table. And thank you to some of the community for your input during this process. I think it's helped along the way. So we'll move on to 11.2, our wastewater treatment and harbor water quality report. Tyson.
Thank you, Your Worship. This evening, I have a for information report on the wastewater system treatment and harbour water quality. So this goes back to August 19th, where staff were directed by council to prepare a report on the town's wastewater treatment system and its relationship to harbour water quality, including an overview of whether and how untreated or partially treated sewage may enter the front or back harbour, and then a plain language summary of the current treatment system upgrades and their anticipated impact on effluent quality, and contextual information to support public understanding of the town's wastewater practices. So that's what we were given on August 19th, took away, compiled the report. So starting with potential overflows at lift stations within the wastewater collection system. So the wastewater collection system is comprised of the sewer laterals, mains, manholes, catch basins, the lift stations themselves, which are pump stations in essence, and then the force mains, which transport the sewer. So within our system in Lunenburg, we have 9 lift stations in total. 7 of them are tied to the front harbour, and there are 2 that are tied to the back harbour. So the lift stations act as a collection tank, typically a big gravity flow to the lift station. The pumps kick in when they reach a certain level, and the force mains take the sewer away. So a characteristic of our system in Lunenburg is a lot of the systems are combined system. So in terms of combined, we're talking about sewer and stormwater both entering the system and needing to be moved around in the system, and then also treated at the plant and then expelled as the effluent. So in the times of high flow, which are those times when the combined system gets exposed, so big rainstorms, intense rainstorms, or melt events, there are times when the lift stations can become overwhelmed with the volume of material coming at them. So the inflow's greater than the outflow that the pumps can handle. So in those storm events, because such a large component of what's entering them is the stormwater, it is significantly diluted, which reduces the effect on the receiving water, which would be the overflow. Instances of overflows can happen if there are mechanical issues. So each lift station has 2 pumps. So one generally is in operation, the other one's is back up and they alternate. But if both pumps are down, obviously there's nothing to send the sewer away. Or our lift stations are very reliant on electrical power as well, which is relevant this evening. But yeah, if there's no power, pumps can't operate again. So those are downfalls within the system. So at those times when there are overflows being experienced, staff are required to immediately report measured overflows to the regulatory departments. So there's 2 departments we report to: Nova Scotia Environment Climate Change and Environment Canada and Climate Change. So provincial and federal levels are both involved. So these circumstances are a great concern, where raw sewage is being overflowing out of the lift station and into either the front or the back harbour generally. So under the regular operating conditions where the system's fully functional and we're not impacted by significant precipitation or melt events, the wastewater collection system has the capacity to not cause overflows into either the front or the back harbour. So in terms of the overflow infrastructure, it's entirely a necessary component of any wastewater collection system. Without that overflow as a feature, if we get into those overflow situations, it would back up in the main that's entering the lift station. Instead of an in, that becomes an out. And then we're impacting sewer laterals, which means people's residences, or it'll be coming out of the top of manholes or out through catch basins in the street. So some obviously big health and safety concerns. So the overflow itself, it's a standard feature, not just in Lunenburg's wastewater system. It's a feature of all wastewater systems that have that lift station acting as an interception, as it does with our system. So our wastewater resource operator team has a maintenance program that we operate. So they do weekly checks of all the lift stations. They also do monthly, more detailed inspections of components. And then semi-annually, so twice each year, we have an external technician come in, look over each lift station, recommend repairs, and then we check against our budget and generally perform those if they're within our means. So the system is getting a lot of attention weekly, monthly, every 6 months. And our operators also have SCADA, which is the system that monitors our operating system. And that's on their computers when they're at work. It's on their phones. It sets off alarms when they're at home with their families in bed. It will wake them up if there's issues that require their attention. So any instances of overflows, council would be familiar with those from the quarterly reports that staff deliver. Lisa Kendall delivered the one last staff meeting, and those ones, the instances of overflows are included in that. All right, so in terms of the wastewater treatment plant, again, those quarterly reports that we cover, I've included the relevant information in the report, but it's the information that we cover in those quarterly reports. So the sewer material comes to the plant, goes through the treatment process, and then becomes effluent. And all the effluent that we generate at the plant is pumped to the front harbour and is expelled at Fisherman's Wharf on Blue Nose Drive. So that's kind of it would be the west end of Blue Nose Drive. So there's no effluent that's expelled in the back harbour the way our infrastructure is set up. So again, the wastewater resource operators perform the testing that we're required to by the regulators. We're required to report. It's all in our approval to operate. And these are the things that get reported in those quarterly reports that appear before council. So in terms of the two bodies of water, like the front harbour and the back harbour, the town operating the wastewater system, we're required to test things like our influent and our effluent. We're not required to monitor bodies of water where there are other possible entries into those water bodies that we're not in control of, if that makes sense. So moving on to the expected outcomes from the current wastewater treatment plant upgrades and expansion project. So council's committed to the $12+ million project for the upgrades and expansion at the wastewater treatment plant. Project commenced early this year and scheduled to be completed sometime in the middle of next year. So in terms of the improvements that the project's making, we have the replacement of the headworks. So the headworks is the piece when the sewage enters from the wastewater collection. It's kind of like a filter or a grate that takes out all the large items like let's say like wipes and those kinds of things, but all kinds of crazy stuff appears there. So that removes those items. So a new smaller screen helps to remove things like gravel and grit and stuff like that too, which cause damage within that system. So then moving on to the sequence batch reactor tank, which would replace existing infrastructure that we have, the MBBR and the DAF tanks. So the tank capacity will be significantly larger than what we have now, which will increase our capacity when those high impact events happen, and it will simplify the process for our operators. It also removes a component of the chemicals that we require to add to the existing process. So again, simplifying it, making it much more simpler to run, and reducing the costs in the operation of the treatment process. We'll have the expanded UV disinfection bank. So that's one of the last parts of the process where the effluent passes through the UV light. So we're adding 4 extra bulbs to that to improve the level of disinfection. And one of the really great features, which kind of brings us to modern standards, is the addition of a diesel generator, which can operate the plant in these power outage situations. So that's often a question that we get, why we don't have a generator in these power outage events. And we've been able to say we don't, but it's coming, and it really is. So all really positive things for our system. So in terms of the future improvement opportunities that are in motion. Previous years we've done the wastewater modeling project to understand our system and its strengths and weaknesses. And we're currently in the process of delivering the storm separation master plan. So that's within the existing year's budget. And then that'll help us pursue the storm separation projects. Once we can get the storm separation basically would turn the existing combined sewers into a separate sewer pipe and a storm pipe. So during those intense rainfall events, that water would be bypassing the lift stations and not exposing them to those conditions and lessening the chance of them being overwhelmed. So within that wastewater modeling project that was identified in 2023, there were 9 storm separation projects recommended. The combined value of that at that time was 16 million. Honestly, I think if we were pursuing those projects, we'd be looking at making other improvements as well. But this isn't it's not a minor undertaking to get to this improvement that we're seeking. So no one can snap their fingers and get us there, but there's lots of things that are getting us on the right path to achieve what we're trying to achieve. That concludes the report, but if there are questions, I can address them.
Through you, Chair. Tyson, can you read the last paragraph under section 1 there, potential overflows of lift stations, please?
Yes, I didn't include that in the summary, but we were contacted this summer by the federal agency, Environment Canada and Climate Change. They're performing an investigation into the condition of the back harbour during August 2025. And of course, town fully cooperated with their inquiries. Following Environment Canada and Climate Change investigation, staff were informed in September that ECCC is confident that the conditions observed in the back harbour were not from the town's municipal wastewater system.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions or comments to Tyson? Deputy Mayor?
I just want to thank you very much, Tyson, for making this presentation and providing this report. As when I was on council previously and still continuing to learn, I know more about wastewater now than I thought I ever would want to know. And I do recognize the incredible improvements that have been made and continue to be made. It was again reassuring to understand the minor role that the back harbor plays, I guess, as a receiving body, because it isn't one except for those rare overflow events, which would mean that there is a significant amount of stormwater also included if that is happening or on the occasions. And from our most recent quarterly report, there was the possibility of one, I think, and I don't know if that was one of the pump stations that would have been impacted or not. I think it said in the report that there were 5 potentially. But again, that's reassuring. I'm a user of the back harbor. I have We have a boat. Our boat is moored in the back harbor. I see the water quality. I fully appreciate that it's not where anybody would want it to be. But I think it's important that we understand what the role of our wastewater system has in that. And I'm reassured from this report and seeing the information provided that that there's, as the Environment Canada folks said, that we are not a contributor to the poor condition of that body of water.
Thank you. I'd like to just highlight as well that all our overflow reports are every quarter. It's reported quarterly, and it's in the public part of the agenda. So again, people have been asking me where are the overflow reports? Why aren't you showing us the overflow reports? Well, they're in quarterly in our agenda package, so they are in there, and that's a public document. So to be honest, most of the time the water reports and the wastewater reports are skimmed over by Tyson, and if we don't ask any questions, it just goes from there, because it's not something until recently when the complaints came forward that was a big item that we thought we had an issue with, and obviously we were right, because we don't seem to have an issue with our plant. And again, I'm proud that we're putting another 12 or 13 million into our wastewater plant to upgrade it, increase the capacity, and move forward into the next generation type of thing, because that opened, I think, in 2001 roughly, or 2002. So it's about 23 years old, 22 years old. So again, it's time, like everything, 20 plus years to do an upgrade. So hopefully when that's done, we've added some features that makes it better on the community, better on our staff, and we have even less overflows. And for example, the Pelham Street project that we're doing right now, we're separating water and the stormwater for that project. So, Rome wasn't built in a day. So one small step at a time. I'm sure moving forward, as we replace water lines and do streets and repairs, we'll probably do the right thing, or hopefully we'll do the right thing and separate the systems at that time. So again, we are making a lot of progress, and we can always improve. So thanks, Tyson, for the report. Councillor Babineau.
Yes, thank you. So, I mean, I'm confident from this report that, our system is, while not perfect, of course, is pretty good and is only going to get better through both our wastewater treatment plant upgrades, but also our electrical upgrades, right? If electrical failures are sometimes causing overflows, then the less we have of those, the better, for many reasons. I am curious though, following the ECCC's report, where they said that they were confident it wasn't us, did they say anything about who they, or like where they thought that might be coming from? Because even if it isn't us, it's still there.
So through the chair, our participation in with the regulators, they kind of ask the questions and then we give the answers. That's the way it normally works. I mean, they're good people to work with, but there are potential contributing elements there, but they didn't tell us what they think. Basically, they receive a complaint and they get action to investigate, and either they find the cause or they don't. But that was the feedback that we got in terms of our own responsibility.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Councillor Fullerton.
Just quickly, as it relates to the future projects for separation of wastewater and stormwater. So we've talked in several instances about projects like Pelham Street, as the mayor mentioned, that we're in part of that process is to separate those two lines. And I'll have to refresh my memory and look back at the 9 locations that were recommended. But I mean, I think that this, combined with new technologies, the upgrades we're doing, and a generator to help us through the power outage situations, I think we're well on our way to this system being the best it can be. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else? Councillor Strong.
This may be just adding more redundancy, but until I became a member of council, I never even stepped foot in the wastewater treatment plant. I'd heard about it. I actually heard about it first when I was in the Bahamas, believe it or not, because it was such an enormous investment by the Canadian government in a little town in Eastern Canada. So going on the tour last year was such an incredible experience for me because I see the junk that ends up in there, and I tried to explain to residents, what you don't flush down the toilet and all of that wonderful stuff, including coffee grounds and oil that seem to go down. But this is off of this actual thing. But I was wondering if maybe there's some opportunity for members of the public to have a video tour of the inside of the wastewater treatment plant to see this phenomenal beast in action. It is really impressive, and I think you understand more about what is going on in there if you can actually see it.
I'll leave that with the CAO.
Through your chair, we'll look at it, see what our options are, and look at what we can do for communications aspect. One of the other things that was actually brought up by the wastewater staff was, is there an avenue that we can actually put that information out again, what not to flush? And I think our new newsletter is a prime opportunity for that. So we'll look at other options there for communication purposes. And through you, Chair, I think back to a question that was presented to council tonight is, what is our capacity to test the water? As noted, it's not our place to be testing that water. It's our responsibility to deal with our town water and wastewater systems. We don't, to my knowledge, it's not an encouragement to, we're not encouraging to swim. It's not a recreational area that we're encouraging for use. It's for public use. And other than that, leave that to the province and the federal government if there are further issues. But that would be my recommendation to council at this point.
Thank you. Again, I want to thank staff for the report. It was a complaint. We did look into it right away. We got some results back, but I guess my only final statement, and I'm not laying blame anywheres, but in 2025, I feel that some level of government, there should be nobody straight piping raw sewage directly into open bodies of water. And I'd like to say that in the town of Lunenburg, nobody is. So there are issues there that is way above our power and control that needs to be dealt with, but that's not at our table level. Thank you. We'll move on to 12, notice of motions, information requests and council reports. We'll start to the right this time.
Yes. I have one item to report, and that is that the Lunenburg Lit Festival is quickly approaching and tickets are being sold. So I would encourage everybody to get up there, and you can buy them for cash up at the library, or you can do it online. The big feature is the final closing act on Saturday night, which will have Jeff Douglas, who did the I Am Canadian ad so many years ago, and Charlie Angus talking about the state of the nation. They've each written books recently. But there are many things happening in this little festival that's been going on for 10 years in the town of Lunenburg. And I'd just encourage everybody, if anybody listening out there or anybody in this room, pick up a ticket. You only have to go to one if you want to go. But I imagine that the Charlie Angus one is going to sell out pretty quickly.
Thank you. Councillor Daphne.
I just want to remind everybody that the ever exciting hydrant flushing will happen next week, November 7th for Newtown and November 8th for Old Town. Some fun things. This day in Nova Scotia history. October 28th, 1970, Gerald Regan led the Liberals to victory in the provincial election over Ike Smith's Conservatives. There you go. You didn't know that, did you, Kayla? Yeah, no problem. Today is National Chocolate Day, recognizing one of the world's favorite tastes. I actually have somebody in my family that can't stand the taste of chocolate. She's really, really abnormal. Anyways, Halloween, trick-or-treaters. I just want to remind everybody that trick-or-treaters come in all sizes. Each child is different. Children mature at different rates. So let the fun last for the kids as long as we can. Even in the downpouring rain, if they come out in the downpouring rain, give them all the candy that you can. And then finally, a reminder, the annual Poppy campaign begins this Friday. And just a few words about that. Remembrance, the poppy is the national symbol of remembrance used to honor those who have served and sacrificed for their country. Sacrifice, the campaign recognizes the selfless acts and the sacrifices of all who have served in times of war, conflict, and peace. Support for veterans. Donations made during the Poppy campaign provide direct financial assistance to veterans and their families who are in need. Honoring the present and the future. The campaign is also about supporting modern-day veterans and ensuring future generations understand the price of freedom and the values of service. I think that's pretty powerful, the price of freedom and the values of service. Unity and community. Wearing the poppy is a way for Canadians from all walks of life to stand united and share in a common history of sacrifice and commitment. So when you see a veteran, not only during this time that's coming up, but all through the year, say thank you, treat them to a coffee, because we wouldn't have the opportunity to complain on Facebook without our veterans. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
No, I have nothing here, just wishing everybody a happy Halloween and hope that the trick-or-treaters don't get too wet. And aside from our committee of the whole meeting next week, many of us are going to be participating in the fall conference of NSFM, Nova Scotia Federation of Municipalities, which is a valuable opportunity, professional learning opportunity for those of us who are privileged to serve on council. And it's unfortunate that all of us can't go, but that's the sad thing about some of these municipal events, that they happen during work days often. And yes, and Councillor Daphne spoke very eloquently about Remembrance Day, but that's coming up very soon. And we have had a tradition here of having very strong attendance at our ceremony, which is always a very important community event. So look forward to that once again.
Thank you. Councillor Fullerton,
Nothing to report.
Councillor Greek,
Nothing here. Thank you.
Councillor Babineau. Okay, thank you very much, everyone. I just have one comment to make. And this is nothing really to do with what's on the agenda tonight, but it's just what's been going on a bit behind the scenes on social media the last week or two. Approximately 2 years ago, the community started a process on Blockhouse Hill that slowly divided the community, very ugly, very nastily. It got out of hand on social media. And it's hitting in that direction again at times with a development that's brought forward. I think it's unfair to everybody in the community for people to decide to take to social media either on one side or the other and name call, public shame people, state things that are either aren't true or just plain misinformation. I think the last thing we heard about Blockhouse Hill was process. Well, there's a process that we're following. I would just ask the public to allow the process to play out and see where it's hit it and see where it takes us. And everybody might be shocked at the end. Who knows? We might be able to come up with a solution that everybody will like. But again, this is a place that I didn't want to see us go again, and it's getting nasty and it's getting out of control. And I just ask the community, we all go to the same post office, we all go to the same doctor's office, we all go to the same drugstore. Be kind, everyone. We all live in the same community. We all want what's best for Lunenburg in the end. And no matter which way any of this goes, we're going to see each other tomorrow, for example, at the corner of Kinley's or whatever. So again, don't put stuff on social media that you'd never say to somebody's face, because again, it's just that's the problem. Social media has basically, in my opinion, somewhat ruined society and ruined the way small communities operate. So if you have something you want to say, there will be public information sessions that you can come and you can say it on the mic, or you can email one of us and we'll make sure it gets put in the public document. But shaming people on Facebook, and again, this isn't one-sided. It's back and forth once again, like it was previously. Nobody wins this battle. The only people that we end up losing as a community. And if you don't think the public is watching us, they certainly are. The Blockhouse Hill thing might have highlighted us 2 years ago, but this is certainly bringing us back on the radar again. And the last thing that I want this community to be known for is either anti-development or just the fact that we're just nasty to one another, and there's no need of it and there's no place for it. So we can all have opinions, and my opinion, quite frankly, is no more correct than probably the person to the left of me's opinion, but it's an opinion, and we can all present our opinions in a professional and in the right way, and then move on. And we've been elected until 2028 to make decisions based on the best interest of the community. And there's bylaws and rules in place as well for people to follow. So again, I'm just asking the community politely to be kind, be nice, and, please don't have another episode of people not wanting to go to the post office, not wanting to leave their house, because we don't need that as a community. And I'm certain that none of the residents need it either. So again, that's just my rave for the night. But again, it's been eating at me for the last little while. I haven't gone on social media for a while because it just drives me crazy, because I obviously am not going to comment on either side of the thing, because there's stuff on there that just isn't true on both sides of the thing. So again, I beg people to just be kind and let the process play out. And at the end of the process, if you're not happy, there'll be ways that you can, show your displeasure. But again, social media is not the way to do it. So that's all I have to say tonight, people. So thank you. So items for consideration of committee of the whole, there aren't any. Motion action list we have. So nothing. We motion to move into closed session. Moved by Councillor Babineau, seconded by Councillor Fullerton. Thank you very much, everybody.